Okay guys, so today I want to do a meta overview. What is the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how are we going to head into Rage of the Abyss? What trends are we likely to see? I'm going to cover the two YCSs that happened this weekend, YCS Lille in France, and then the YCS Santiago in Chile. And then I also want to go over some of the OCG metagame breakdowns because they've had Rage of the Abyss and also crossover breakers. And I know a bunch of my viewers are interested in the Malice cards and the Ryzeal cards, so that will be included in that. And I'm also going to start covering those cards soon. I didn't want to do it before Rage of the Abyss came out because that's the new hot set. Also, if you want to have your deck profiles reviewed, I'm going to do another deck doctor. So if you want to participate in that, you can just join the Discord. The link will be in the description. In the general channel, there is a deck doctor sub channel. So if you want, you can put a screenshot. I want to do this for Rage of the Abyss. So if you've been testing Rage of the Abyss, it could be anything. I mostly focus on White Forest stuff, now like Azamina stuff. But really, if there's anything that you're testing Rage of the Abyss, you can put a screenshot in there. Do not put a text list, and I will review it in my next video. Okay, so let's move on to the video. Now, first of all, YCS Lille. So this was in France. Unfortunately, they do not have the overall representation. They just have the top 32. And usually you want to see the conversion from the overall representation into the top 32 and see what converted better or worse. That being said, Fiendsmith Yubel is clearly far ahead of the pack as the #1 deck. You may be thinking, well, this is obvious, everybody knew this, but I don't know if people would have predicted the degree to which Yubel would be ahead, or the fact that Fire wouldn't even show up in the name section. Even though people were playing it, it's still in the other for the top 32. So Fiendsmith Yubel, 34%, Tenpai, 16%, clearly the second best deck, and everything else is basically a drop-off after that. Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta also has a top player ranking section, and we see a similar trend here where Yubel is first, Tenpai is second, and then there's a drop-off after that. We don't have deck lists yet. If you weren't watching the stream and you care about White Forest, there was a guy playing very unusual non-engine in the Runic White Forest version. So he's playing like Dark Ruler and Droplets, cards that don't actually help you clear boards. And so people have traditionally not liked playing it in Runic White Forest because you still have to clear the board afterwards. But he still made top 8. Okay, so now YCS Santiago. The top team rankings, so this was a 3v3 event, show a similar pattern where you have Yubel as clearly the first deck, and Tenpai as clearly the second. Now, they do have Snake Eye Fiendsmith as third, although the count is only 8, so I'm not sure how representative this is, but what is obvious is that everything after this falls off. Also, we don't have deck profiles for this, but there were some people that topped with White Forest decks. And I hope that these are not all Runic variants because I want to see more innovation in the White Forest lists. Okay. So let's move on to the OCG. Now, the first metagame report that they have after Rage of the Abyss was back in end of July, 1st of August for them. And they have Snake Eyes and Tenpai Dragon as obviously the best decks and everything else quite far behind. Even decks like Memento that are considered pretty good are representation-wise way, way, way far behind. Now, one of the most important points that I wanted to mention here is you're probably going to be seeing in Rage of the Abyss a bunch of decks that just want to play the Azamina stuff and the Fiendsmith stuff. And if you have Azamina cards and Fiendsmith cards in your deck, you also have to play non-engine. So the question is, what deck are you even playing? Is this just like a Fiendsmith Azamina pile? Or is there some other very efficient engine that you can also fit in while having a bunch of non-engine? So in this example, you can see Flamberge, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with original Sinful Spoils. There's 6 like true Snake Eyes cards. Now, the cool thing about this deck is that the Wanted package, which Wanted is at 1 for them and which is at 3, those 4 cards can be either Snake Eyes cards or Azamina cards. So any kind of flexibility that you have with that is really good. I was trying to show that you could take the Fiendsmith cards, you could take the Azamina cards, so including the Wanted package, and still play another engine like White Forest, and it would work. But, you know, if the Wanted package can flex between Snake Eyes and Azamina stuff, that's obviously better because, you know, like if you've drawn Deception already, if you've drawn Deception and Wanted or Deception and Black Witch, the fact that you can just go into your other engine instead of searching potentially redundant pieces is good. Now, another thing that's worth pointing out is that Fuaros is an insanely broken card, way better than Prulia, main deck worthy. If you go first and you draw the Fuaros and you are on Deception or you have access to Deception through the Wanted engine at least the card isn't stuck in your hand because it is a monster and Deception tributes monsters to be able to search Hallowed Azamina to start going through your Azamina plays. Now, obviously, this is not synergy. This is not efficient, but it is not completely dead in your hand. Another deck that was making use of this going first as well is Tenpai. So sometimes if you're forced to go first, if your opponent knows what you're on game 1 or maybe game 2, you don't know if they're going to make you go first or not, and you draw the Furos going first, you're normally making Seals pass anyhow. And how Seals works is the on-field effect, you tribute itself for cost to bounce, and then the other effect to special from deck is a trigger that happens on a separate chain. So there is a window after you have tributed the Seals for cost where you will have potentially nothing on field, and then you can activate the Furos and draw into whatever your breakers are. We are seeing a lot of Tenpai players playing the Dominus Impulse, and this is the one that negates the special summon effects. So, Tenpai makes better use of Furos and Dominus Impulse, two new cards, at least for us in the TCG, far better than most other decks do. Okay, some other things that are interesting is sometimes when a product comes out, you see that there are shifts as people get more prepared for it as you go on. So if we go into the next metagame report, we see that Tenpai and Snake Eyes haven't really changed much. It's still basically the top 2 slots. Was there any new product release here? No, I don't think so. So I don't think this is worth covering in too much detail. Now, if we move on here, we see basically the same trend. So continuing to move forward in time as people adjust and adapt to the meta and figure out what's going on. If anything, the Snake Eyes, Azamina, Fiendsmith, and the Tenpai decks are just taking more of the pie. And then the other decks are, I guess, going into the other category because there's not enough representation or there's not enough diversity, basically. There is a Majesty's Fiend, which is searchable off of the Fiendsmith Tract. Obviously, you don't get the same value where you're discarding the card you search and it brings itself back, so you will have to discard a card, but, Majesty is still a good card. If you're not using your normal summon, which you don't have to with the Azamina engine or the Fiendsmith engine, then I guess, you could use your normal summon on this instead of like an Ash. A Snake Eyes Ash, especially if you are bridging through the original Sinful Spoils and maybe you don't even need to normal summon at all. So, that's worth thinking about maybe. Not too much change here. They're still playing Shifter and all those basic cards. Okay, now, here's what's interesting. So, the second last OCG metagame report, we see the new product release in Crossover Breakers. So, this is the Ryziel stuff. And let me see, actually, does it mention when the ban list came into effect? I don't remember when the latest OCG ban list where they're on 2 maxi. I guess we'll just see that immediately, to be honest. Let's just go and see if there's 2 maxi in here. No. Okay, so that ban list hasn't come into effect yet. Is it in the last one? No. Okay, so all of this is pre-maxi to 2. All right, so the first appearance of Ryziel. So this is full power Snake Eyes, Fiendsmith, Azamina that we're talking about, okay? So that's the context that you should be thinking about Ryziel and Malice entering the meta. So Ryziel is basically a rank 4 deck. And one thing that I don't understand from looking at the metagame breakdowns, please, if you know the answer to this, let me know in the comments below. I don't see either Ryziel decks or non-Ryziel decks playing like Flying Sea or Contact Sea because I don't know if there's a way that Ryziel easily clears those monsters or I don't even see any link monsters, for example, in the first place list here. So I'm not sure what the reason is for that, or if people just think that they're not worth playing. I feel like if you're playing against the best deck, you should probably play something that counters the best deck, or at least have it in your side deck. Anyhow, let's briefly go over this. So, Snake Eyes, Fiendsmith, Azamina still viable. Tenpai portion has really shrunk. Malice, I guess, is really underperforming relative to Ryziel, so it's not a bad deck based on the representation, especially being above Yubel, for example, and then all of the worst decks like Centurion, Labyrinth, Magical Musketeer, that must be a Fiendsmith deck, and Voiceless Voice, but it's clearly worse than Ryziel. So they are playing main deck Furos. This is also potentially a Shifter deck. Interestingly, this deck can also play the Aratama Sakitama package to make it easier to go into rank 4s, which is cool. This deck also can play Bonfire because I believe 2 of the Ryziel cards that they main are Pyro cards. And so you can search them off of Bonfire. So Bonfire is probably going to be pretty value in the TCG for a while if it doesn't get hit. And let's see, what else do we notice here? Oh, wait, are they playing the Trap Tricks? Oh, they are playing the Trap Tricks card. So here's, I wonder if this is for, I wonder what this is for. Because if you were going to get Furost, it would have happened already. You're probably not going to Shifter or Ryzeal deck. So I wonder what if this is for like Droll, or if people are even playing Droll, or what this is for. Because you'd obviously be making, you'd make this pretty early, I guess, if you wanted the Gravediggers. This is the one that negates the effects that activate in hand. We do see some Ghost Ogres, and then, you know, basically every OCG deck has to play the cross out on the called by because of Furos and Maxi. So, you know, it's horrendous. But Snake Eyes, Azamina, Fiendsmith, same general idea. The Fiendsmith package, the Azamina stuff, the Wanted stuff bridging into the Snake Eyes stuff. I don't think there's anything super interesting to cover here. They still have Appaloosa. Yeah, this all looks pretty standard to me. Okay, so moving on to the last one now. I wanted to keep this under 10 minutes. This one, oh, I think maybe this was the Blue Eyes. Yeah, this was the Blue Eyes support. So this is coming out probably next year for us in the TCG. We see that Ryzeal has taken over even more of the meta. Malice has moved up a little bit, and I'm actually a little bit confused as to why Snake Eyes has dropped so much. Did I miss something? There was no ban list, right? Because people are still playing 3 Maxi. Was there some other relevant product? Huh. So maybe this indicates that Ryzeal is just clearly the best deck. And maybe Malice has a better time dealing with Ryzeal because it doesn't auto-lose to Shifter. I mean, if you're an OCG player and you have any insight into what's going on here, you can let me know. But I can certainly imagine that if you're playing a Shifter deck and the best deck is a Shifter deck, then you don't lose to Shifter, and maybe you don't even have to play it, or you just side it. Whereas Snake Eyes, Azamina, Fiendsmith obviously doesn't want to get hit by Shifter. Okay, so let's see if there's anything interesting here. Okay, looks like Evenly Matched is rising in popularity here. We still see, so not everyone is playing the Aratama Sakitama package. I guess people are playing Nib because he's playing 1 for the crossout, which is at 1. These are OCG ratios, guys. What can you do? So he's not playing Shifter now. I think that if you were playing against a lot of mirrors that don't lose to Shifter, maybe you just put the Shifter in the side. Is he doing that? Yes, so the Shifter does go into the side. Again, I'm not seeing any Flying Sea or Contact Sea, and I'm not sure what the reason for that is. If you know, let me know. Actually, maybe this card, maybe Donner, because Donner tributes itself, right? So maybe you would just, maybe you would use the Flying or Contact Sea as material to make the Donner. Yeah, so actually, let's see. Donner Dagger, I think this is what it's called. So let me just make sure that you can actually do this the way I think. So you target a monster you control itself, and a monster your opponent controls, destroy them. Or tribute a monster special for higher. Wait, but if they don't control a monster, what are you supposed to do? Okay, so maybe this is not for the C cards, because they could just see you and not have anything on their field. Okay. This guy's playing Desires. We see the Bonfire, of course. There's the Summon Limit at 1, which is banned for us. He has no link monsters. Now moving on to Malice. So there's the Dotscaper package. There's the Math Mech one of that a lot of lists are playing. Here you can see some early looks into some of the ratios. They don't have a lot of names yet, so I think you probably just have to play a bunch of them. They are maining Shifter. Here's the Furos Maxi. Obviously, classic OCG because of the cross-out called by. Very unfortunate. It's just like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards. Like literally a quarter of every single deck that exists in the entire OCG is exactly the same thing because of Maxi Furos. So they're playing the Impulse as well. And then there's the Aggregator. Okay, so Tenpai, they're also playing Perulia. I'm not actually sure how many times reliably Ryzeal summons from hand. And he's still maining the Shifter. Okay, so that will do it for the look into the future of the meta. I think that Ryzeal is going to be interesting. It, I guess, is going to power creep what we have next. So I'm curious if we're even going to get, or when the next ban list is going to be, if it's going to be before Ryzeal drops or not. I think that might be December for us. So anyhow, if you want to participate in the Deck Doctor stuff, join the Discord and put your screenshot in the channel. Thanks for watching.